Moment in the Sun. Billy Lowe's. As a 22-year-old rookie in 1952, posted a 2.69 ERA, 136 ERA plus in 187 and a third innings. Suffered heartbreaking 3-2 loss in Game 6 of the 1952 World Series, but came back to win Game 4 of the 53 series. Famously explained key hit in 52 loss by saying he lost ground ball in the sun, which Carl Erskine later validated by saying that the setting sun did sneak through the lower levels of Ebbets Field. Spent majority of 11-year MLB career with Dodgers with a 3.86 ERA, 105 ERA plus, in 639 and two-thirds innings. For all the faults so many wanted to lay at his feet from 1949 to 1951, Newcomb was 56 and 28 with a 3.39 ERA, 120 ERA plus, 57 complete games, and 12 shutouts. During those 3 seasons, Newcomb's first years in the majors, only 30-year-old Warren Spahn had more complete games or strikeouts. Roberts and Newcomb, both born in 1926, were the premier right-handers of the next generation. Newcomb came in and just tore up the league from the beginning, John Thorne says. He was a fully formed pitcher. He could have come to the majors earlier, but he was probably held back at Nashua with Roy Campanella, so there would be 2 blacks on that team. In 1952, Roberts went 28-7 with a 2.59 ERA. Newcomb went into the military, losing his age 26 and age 27 seasons to the Army Medical Corps. Most of the time as a part of a special demonstration unit, according to Kramer. Newcomb returned to Brooklyn in 1954, a season that amounted to shaking off the rust. 144 and a third innings, 4.55 ERA, 91 ERA plus. Of the diversion into the military, Thorne says plainly, "I think it cost him a position in the Hall of Fame." Even in his absence, the Dodgers ping-ponged between appreciation and aversion to Newcomb. "Losing Newcomb is worse than losing Willie Mays," Dressen said. "Where can you get a pitcher like that? Let the Giants have Mays back. Let them have 2 Mays. It's okay with me so long as the Army gives me back Newcomb." But when Dressen was fired at the end of the year, he sniped in Look magazine that Newcomb missed repeatedly in the crucial low-run games. Newcomb couldn't walk away, wouldn't walk away. If it wasn't clear how much the game meant to Newcomb before his forced sabbatical, it was unmistakable upon his return, which began with a complete game 6-4 victory against the Giants at the Polo Grounds. "We go in the clubhouse," Erskine recalls, "and everybody's happy and everybody's hitting around, having a good time. So I go over to Nuke's locker in the Polo Grounds to congratulate him, and he kind of jerks away from me and turns his back on me. Oh, what's this about? That was my first reaction, but I didn't leave. I stayed there, and finally Nuke turned around a little bit. I could see he was crying, and I said, 'Nuke, are you okay?' And he kind of swallowed hard. You could see tears in his eyes. He said, 'Carl, I didn't know if I could pitch again in the big leagues.'" His emotions. As time has passed, Robinson's pioneering status has made it all too easy to dismiss Newcomb's place on the front lines of transcending the color line in baseball. But that outsider status, the racism both explicit and implicit, is inseparable from his story. It should be noted that the belief that African Americans lacked fortitude was an important component of the psychology of race prejudice, wrote Carl E. Prince. It was this deeply rooted bias that Dixie Walker reflected in his 1946 statement that blacks didn't have what it took to play Major League ball. This was a view prevalent among a large number of major leaguers, especially those who were Southerners in that post-World War II era. Neither Robinson nor Campanella would ever qualify as race-tainted, gutless wonders, but as is always the case with deeply embedded prejudice, the arrival of one possible victim would erase for many all other evidence. The 1955 season, of course, was a triumph for Brooklyn. The race ended almost as soon as it began, the Dodgers taking a double-digit lead in the NL by June, and unlike 1951, never giving it back. Ascending again as the unquestioned ace of the staff, Newcomb opened the season 10-0 in his first 11 starts with a 2.44 ERA, and was 18-1 by the end of July. Not for nothing, Newcomb was also a tremendous hitting pitcher at the peak of his skill. Bill James, who called Newcomb the best hitting pitcher of the 1950s, said that Newcomb's 1955 season at the plate was, with the exception of one Wes Ferrell season and Babe Ruth, the best hitting season by a pitcher in the 20th century. Newcomb posted a .395 on-base percentage and .632 slugging percentage, thanks to an NL record 7 home runs, a triple, and 9 doubles, and added a cherry on top with a steal of home. Newcomb even had a .435 on-base percentage in 23 pinch hitting appearances. In August, he pitched complete games in 3 consecutive losses in which the high-powered Brooklyn offense was held to a combined 4 runs. But Newcomb won his 20th game on September 5th, and Brooklyn clinched the pennant on September 8th, leading the league at the time by 17 games. That September, in contrast to previous years, Newcomb pitched only 20 2/3 innings, finishing the regular season with a 20-5 record and a 3.20 ERA, 128 ERA+, leading the league in WHIP, walks per 9 innings, and strikeout-walk ratio, but also evincing renewed concerns about his health. In their most memorable World Series, the Dodgers played 7 games, and Newcomb won none. Set up to start Game 1, Newcomb surrendered leads of 2-0 in the second inning and 3-2 in the third, ultimately allowing 6 runs in 5 2/3 innings of a 6-5 loss. McGowan wrote that Newcomb, who didn't linger around the clubhouse to meet the press, wasn't happy about his showing, and neither, for that matter, was Alston and the rest of the boys. "No, I don't think he was as fast as I've seen him," Alston said. "He wasn't overpowering." Billy Lowe's started Game 2, also a defeat, followed by Johnny Padres in Game 3 and Erskine in Game 4, both wins. But when Newcomb could have started Game 5 on 3 days' rest, Alston went with rookie Roger Craig, who had made 10 starts all year and was pitching in the Piedmont League a year earlier. When Newcomb could have started Game 6 on 4 days' rest, Alston went with Carl Spooner, who hadn't finished the 4th inning in a start in nearly 4 weeks. And for Game 7, it was the 23-year-old Padres, not Newcomb. Alston told reporters before Game 6 that Nuke has had the flu, a sore arm, and a sore back. Deprived of individual glory in the World Series, Newcomb wasn't denied his place in the celebration. Newcomb, so fastidious that he once threatened violence if a pennant celebration left beer on his clothes, allowed Duke Snider to fill his hat with Schaefer and then press it down on his head, wrote D'Antonio. Newcomb came back in 1956 to achieve the pièce de résistance of his career, winning baseball's inaugural Cy Young Award and in turn becoming the first in history to win Cy Young and MVP honors in the same season. He even almost fulfilled those outrageous predictions of a 30-win season, finishing 27-7 with a career-best .306 ERA, 131 ERA+, and an MLB-leading 0.99 WHIP. Again, he was the Dodgers' Iron Man and then some. 18 complete games, including 6 consecutive starts from July 20th to August 11th with a 0.67 ERA, beginning his September with an 11-inning 3-1 victory over the Giants and climaxing with 20 1/3 innings in the season's final 8 days, capped by 7 1/3 innings in the 8-6 victory over the Pirates that clinched the defending World Series champions' 4th NL pennant in 5 years. Once more, it might have been overwork that deprived Newcomb of his crowning moment. This time, it set the stage for his biggest downfall. Starting Game 2 of the World Series at home against the Yankees, Newcomb gave up a run in the first inning and was KO'd in a 5-run second, crowned by Yogi Berra's grand slam. That the Dodgers actually rallied from the 6-0 deficit for a 13-8 victory might as well have been an event from another universe for Newcomb, who, upon exiting Ebbets Field, was confronted by a heckler, a Brooklyn parking lot attendant no less, named Mike Brown. Afraid Newcomb punched the man in the gut, and charges, ultimately dismissed, were brought against him for simple assault. A last chance at redemption evaporated in the Dodgers' fourth Game 7 in a decade. Berra took Newcomb deep again, not once but twice, with 2-run homers in the first and third innings. A leadoff homer by Elston Howard in the fourth ended Newcomb's season, and soon that of the Dodgers, who lost 9-0. He drove his Ford station wagon with his right hand, and with his left he held a handkerchief to his face, wrote New York Post columnist Milton Gross, who accompanied him after the game with Newcomb's father, James. Sometimes he put it to his mouth, sometimes to his eyes, and sometimes he dropped it on the seat between his legs. He balled it into his fist, or he rolled it between his fingers, and always he stared straight ahead, almost unseeing, because there was a mist before his eyes and memories he cannot erase. "I was thinking about what I do wrong," Newcomb said, "but I can't put my finger on why I do it." He paused and then went on. "I was running in the outfield at the stadium the other day, and a guy called me a yellow-bellied slob. How do you take things like that?" Newcomb played 1957 in Brooklyn and part of 1958 in Los Angeles, then spent his remaining 2.5 big league years with the 2 Ohio teams, Cincinnati and Cleveland. There was even a stint for Japan's Chunichi Dragons as a first baseman/outfielder, 12 homers in 81 games. But Newcomb's recovery came years after he was done putting on a uniform. "In 1956, he said, I won 27 games. I was 27-7. We win the pennant, and because in the World Series Yogi Berra hits a couple of home runs off me, they say I choke up. You know, that knocked the hell out of me that year. That's when I started drinking. That's where my whole career came to an end. Really to an end. Then I began to say the hell with it, and then my career started down, and 4 years later I was out of the major leagues. I went over to New Jersey and crawled into a shell and stayed there. I couldn't go stand up in front of a bunch of kids and have them ask me, 'What does it mean, Mr. Newcomb, when they say you choke up?' How can I explain that to kids? So I said to myself, I'm not even going to go out and speak to any of them. I'm not going to do anything. I went out and I played golf and I got drunk, gained a lot of weight. The hell with it. That's where my head went, because I didn't give a goddamn. And I think it helped destroy my baseball career." Newcomb, who reigns in the 21st century as one of the most glorious Dodgers, one of the earliest pillars of the Dodger pitching tradition as we know it today, was a beaten man. Whatever the realities of Newcomb's contributions in his first 3 years in the majors, and despite his magnificent years in 1955 and 1956, his reputation was fixed forever by the combination of Giants jockeying, racist stereotyping, and even the Dodgers' misguided efforts to provoke him into baseball's version of manhood, Prince pointedly stated. It was the Dodger management and a few players who really did Newcomb in, for they should have known better. Newcomb was a sad byproduct of the sporting world's primal impulse to tear down those it doesn't quite understand. The fixation on his failings cruelly denied how often he carried the Dodgers on his broad shoulders. From the moment Newcomb made his Brooklyn debut until the team's move west, no Dodger threw more innings, even though Newcomb spent 2 full seasons in Army Green. He had nearly twice as many complete games, 110, as any other hurler. Despite only 8 seasons in a Dodger uniform, he ranked 20th in team history with 22.7 wins above replacement. Padres, as we'll see, was the hero of the '55 World Series. But without Newcomb, there is no Padres. That all those pressures drove Newcomb down would have been enough, but there was also a Damoclean sword hovering over his entire life that came down on the Dodgers' 1956 postseason goodwill tour of Japan, a voyage that came and went in a haze for Newcomb. It was only years later, when he elevated his story to the realm of tragedy, when he admitted to the alcoholism Labine had seen on sorry display on the flight from New York, wrote Shapiro. He told of starting to drink beer when he was 8 years old. His father, his greatest fan and booster, Thought it would help him grow up big and strong. He never pitched drunk, but he did pitch hungover. Schaefer Beer, the team's sponsor, kept the clubhouse stocked. He would drink a six-pack and then stop and buy another for the drive home. By 1956, he was mixing liquor with grapefruit or grape juice. On December 7, 1941, Newcomb said, I was sitting in a Staten Island bar. The Japanese were bombing Pearl Harbor and I was getting bombed on a bar stool. He was 15. According to Shapiro, Newcomb stopped drinking in 1965 when his family found him passed out on the floor. He turned his life around, becoming an alcoholism counselor. In 1970, Dodger president Peter O'Malley hired him as the Dodgers' director of community relations. Newcomb was instrumental in saving the career of Bob Welch, a Dodger pitcher born 24 days after the '56 World Series ended. I wasn't going to let that boy go down the drain, Newcomb said. I know what happened to my career, and it wasn't going to happen to Bob Welch. In his later years, Newcomb became a super-generational figure at the ballpark, a mentor to so many, particularly Dodger closer Kenley Jansen. He won the level of appreciation, the unequivocal love, that was withheld from him at the height of his prowess. Newcomb rehabilitated himself, and time rehabilitated the rest of us. No great Dodger was less understood in his prime, but no one will ever question him again.